Welcome to the Veterinary Marketing Podcast, where it's all about how to attract, engage, and retain clients to your veterinary hospital using digital marketing. My name is Brandon Brashears. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about text message marketing. I've never talked about this before in the podcast, but I think it is the way of the future in terms of communicating with clients. I'm going to talk to you about some really cool tools that you can use to set up. They're super affordable and very flexible. So before we begin today's episode, I want to talk about a couple things. First, a huge thank you to our sponsors, two websites by Brad Haven. We have usedvetequipment.com and newvetequipment.com. For over 9 years now, usedvetequipment.com has been helping vets buy and sell used equipment. You can save money when you buy used veterinary equipment, everything from cages, kennels, pumps, x-ray equipment, lasers, ultrasounds, dental equipment, surgery equipment, lab equipment from Abaxis, IDEX, and Heska, tables, tubs, and sinks, vet trucks, and vet boxes. What do you have to sell? Used Vet Equipment brings the buyer and seller together. It's a really cool system, so be sure to head on over there. Tons of cool stuff. And if you're looking for just an extra way to make some money and maybe, get some ad money or something, pump it into the practice, sell the stuff that you're not using. It's a great thing to do. Also, head on over to newvetequipment.com. Are you looking for new veterinary equipment with amazing warranty? Well, check out newvetequipment.com, where they show you the price up front. Super transparent pricing. They got digital x-ray equipment, dental x-ray equipment, ultrasound equipment, LED surgery lighting, surgery tables, autoclaves. When you go to newvetequipment.com, you'll clearly see the price on every item for sale, and you can also check out the warranty so that you can buy without regret. At newvetequipment.com, they show you the price up front and give you a great warranty. I'd also like to mention that I have a new training completely free. If you go to my Instagram, at Veterinary Marketing Podcast, and tap the link in the bio, you can get it. It's the 3 no-brainer ways to track your digital marketing. It's, I think, a really good course. It's really simple ways to make sure that you can track your marketing. I have a more advanced more advanced analytics course coming out this month. It is free to all of my ad clients. If I manage ads for your practice, by the way, you get free training every single month, on top of all of the cool benefits for getting your ads managed. So if you'd like me to manage your ads, send me a note on Instagram. I'm open for that. And one thing is that I'm actually limiting the number of clients that I take on so that I can be sure to give everybody the kind of attention that they need. So if I'm out of space, you can jump on the waiting list. Otherwise, if there's space open right now, but not too many spaces, so be sure to head on over to at Veterinary Marketing Podcast on Instagram. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Today we're talking about text message marketing. Why is text message marketing so important? There's a few major reasons that I think you need to have text message marketing for your veterinary hospital. Number one is that it is an owned media. You can send out messages and you can communicate with people as you need to. So you have, first off, you have lists of clients that are already in your veterinary practice software, practice management software. So you already have that list. It's just sitting there not doing anything. Number two, you can easily get people to opt in. People are always on their phones. If you have any kind of content that is audio related, like this podcast, for example, if you have a podcast for your practice, text message opt-in is a great way to do calls to action. So that's another thing. If you have people in your waiting rooms or waiting areas, you can have them text to receive something, whether it's a guide. You can deliver all kinds of media in there. So it's just really useful and has a lot of utility, just like email. The thing that I think about with text messaging, though, is that it's a lot more conversational and that people expect to get texts from different brands and businesses now. And so I think that how you approach text messaging is going to be really, really important, because it'll really set up that relationship to be back and forth and not just a broadcasting method. So text message marketing right now, we still have insanely high open rates. And I think it's going to continue just because text messaging is not saturated like email is. If you look at your phone and text messaging, you probably have a few companies that you get texts from. I tend to opt in a lot more than I think the standard person does, only because I want to see how brands are using this. Surprisingly, the best text message marketing company that I've seen so far is Crocs, like the ugly shoes. And I am a proud ugly shoe wearer. If you like Crocs too, be sure to send me a note on Instagram because they're pretty awesome. But I really like their text messaging. They actually send out quite a bit of texts, and the way that they send out text with GIFs incorporated is really cool, especially the way that it pops up on the phone. It's really unique, and it's pretty dang cool. So if you go to crocs.com or whatever their website is, be sure to sign up for their text messaging, because you're going to get a lot of good marketing ideas. And I think it's surprising too, because you wouldn't expect that. But back to why this is so important for your practice. Number one, open rates are typically above 90%. That's amazing. So if you send out a text message broadcast, you're going to get a 90% open rate. If you send out an email marketing broadcast, you're hopefully going to get a 30% open rate, and it probably won't be that high, especially if you're not sending out emails on a regular basis. So text message marketing is much, much higher. And the two different ways that you can handle text messaging is you can send out either more of a broadcast, or you can send out more of a communication. Text messaging has the same kind of build out that email does, in that you can build automations that go out on a regular basis. You can build out broadcasts that happen based on triggers. You can do manual broadcasts that you send out. The options and possibilities are really endless. The way that I would approach this is I would probably set up automations, as well as trigger broadcasts, as well as manual broadcasts when you need to send out updates. The thing that I really would hesitate, though, is not sending text messages on a regular basis. So just like with email, you don't want to be the person who just shows up every once in a while asking for something, right? Everybody has that friend who just says, constantly shows up and just continues to ask for stuff. And when you see them calling, you're like, oh, geez, it's so-and-so calling again. They probably need something. This is the only time they ever call me. That's what it's like when you're sending out messages and communicating, when you don't either offer value, provide value, or make something that's useful for them. So you have to make deposits in terms of value, so that when you do ask for something, you can get, and not ask in a way that is going to be annoying. So thinking about text messaging, number one, when you collect text message numbers and you're sending out text messages, the first thing that you have to do is provide value. So the first interaction has to be value packed. And the best way, in my opinion, to provide value is to provide specific value and specific benefits. So anytime that you're creating marketing resources or assets, you need to make sure that you're segmenting your list. So for example, how do we provide value to puppy owners? We give content around puppies. We give updates around puppies. Another really good thing that you can do with text message marketing is provide value through access. The thing that I love about these text message marketing platforms, and we'll talk about a few of them here in just a second, is that you can have this set up with your own texting number, and you can do desktop texting. It doesn't have to go to your phone, but it gives people an outlet so that they can text back and forth with clients in a way that's not going to be on your personal phone, which I think is huge. So that access is value. And I know that you probably don't want to do a huge amount of back and forth texting, but I will say this. I took one of my dogs to get spayed, and the doctor texted me after to follow up and just said, hey, wanted to make sure that everything went well, and the recovery is going well. Please be sure to let us know if you need anything. Here's the phone number, but let us know if there's anything you need. I thought that was a really nice personal touch, and I'm pretty sure I live in a small town, pretty sure the doctor just texted me on her own phone, just because. But she could have done that with a text messaging platform. I don't know for sure. I haven't asked her. I haven't talked to marketing with my local veterinarian, just because that's an awkward conversation to bring up. But the thing that I think is really cool is that level of access and that follow-up shows that you care. It provides additional contact point. It really reinforces that you're at the right place, that they care about your pet, and all that good stuff. So that's like an example of an automation that you could set up that would provide value. So thinking about the different automations, number one is you have onboarding. So getting a client that's bonded to your client, your practice. I think that's huge value. You have procedural, so reminders and things that you can send out beforehand, that if somebody has an appointment, it is triggered to automatically send out text messages. For example, with you could do surgery instructions that go out 24 hours before, surgery instructions an hour before, reminders, all of that good stuff. Then you have retention stuff, so getting people back in who haven't been in a while, following up and updating. All of that stuff is incredibly important, and text messaging works fantastic for that. And then you also have promotional stuff that you could send out, whether it's promotional for content, you're trying to get people to engage with your content, to re-engage with your brand, or you could have specials or offers or anything. If you have openings, and you could say, we have 4 dental openings this week. If you want to book a time, let us know. You don't even have to offer a discount, but you're just saying, let us know. And then the calls to action for that is pretty simple. People can either respond back to the text message, or they can click a link or whatever it is that you want to be doing. But I think in general, you need to have your text messaging set up so that you can engage with people how they want to engage. And people like to text, especially thinking about, I'm probably an outlier here because I like to just call and get things done and over with and talk instead of just going back and forth on texting. But there are a lot of people, my wife hates calling, and if there's a way for people to text to set up an appointment, she's all about that. So it totally depends on the personality type, demographics of people, and what they're wanting to engage with and the way that they want to convert. So ultimately, it's just as an extra tool that is really beneficial. So there's 2 kinds of text messaging that I think you need to be aware of and be able to achieve here. We have the one-to-one text messaging, and then the one-to-many text messaging. And almost all platforms do both of those options. So one-to-one is if somebody responds to your text message, you can start going back and forth and talking to these people. If you have one-to-many, you can send out broadcast, and it's kind of like an email broadcast. So the tools that I suggest, one is called Twilio. It's a really great tool. I would say it's probably the leader in text messaging. It's been around the longest. It's really well established, and you can build out customizations for automations, for broadcasts, for automatic responses. There's a lot of really cool things that's involved with Twilio. For that, there are limits on the pricing. If you go to twilio.com, you can check it out. But it's a really effective way to get your text messaging set up. The cool thing, too, is that if somebody opts in to, say, an email newsletter or something, you can also request phone numbers at the same time, and then text for additional savings or whatever, and you can confirm text messaging that way. But the post, and in most of the marketing automation software, things like MailChimp or things like ActiveCampaign, you just set up an automation so that it sends out a text message after it sends out your email message. So it's pretty easy and seamless to set up. I think that the Twilio Flow Builder is very easy to use, by the way, and it's pretty darn user-friendly. It is, I would say, a little bit more technical than some of these other options, which is going to lead me to the next option, which is called Community. And Community is a text messaging tool that's both one-to-one and one-to-many. You can also do all kinds of really cool segmentation in there. And it has an iPhone app. It doesn't have an Android app, which is kind of a bummer because I'm an Android user. But it has an iPhone app, so you can go back and forth on that, and you don't have to be on your device. But the thing that I like about Community is that it has some pretty cool growth tools that are specific to that. So if people want to text a word to the number that you get, they can do that. And so if you've ever been listening to the radio, radio does that a lot, by the way, because the calls to action are you're hearing something and then the phone is in your hands. So typically audio does really well with text calls to opt in. Waiting rooms do really well, but Community has a lot of cool tools that are built into generating that. And it also has automations built into the different text message opt-in options. And it's very, very simple to set this up so that you don't have to go out and create, like Zapier integrations and all of the more complicated type things. So, thinking back on, what your skill level is and your skill set is, I think if you want something that's really basic, that's plug and play, easy to use, something like Community is great. Another great tool for this is also called ManyChat. ManyChat has not only text message integration, but also Facebook and Instagram Messenger integration. It's just another step. The cool thing about ManyChat is that it's what's called intermodal messaging. So it's a system that can integrate within all of the platforms. You can even do email marketing in there, text message marketing, Messenger on both Facebook and Instagram. And there's a lot of really cool growth tools and automation tools. ManyChat also has the one-to-one and one-to-many with the desktop app, an iPhone and Android app, and it's super affordable in the pricing as well, which is cool. So I think texting in general is getting a lot easier. It's easier to set up automations. It's very similar in all the builders to email marketing, but the open rates are incredible. You probably already have a huge list. You'd need to start getting permission to send out text though. So you couldn't just start broadcasting everybody who's ever been in your database. You'd want to make sure and say, hey, is it okay if we send you text promotions? And I would say send a text as quickly as possible so that when somebody opts in, they get the expectation that they're going to be getting messages on a regular basis. And so not only are you sending out broadcasts for offers, promotions, but you need to be segmenting your list, making sure that the content that you're sending out is relevant. And then I would say don't try to be too formal and too fancy when it comes to text messaging. If you want to be effective in texting, you need to communicate as people communicate on the channel. So don't be afraid of being possibly less professional. I would say it depends on and when I say less professional, I just mean not so serious, right? I think that there's a lot of room for humor, a lot of room for stuff that's funny, engaging, and just not so serious and boring. And obviously, if it's like pre-surgery instructions or reminders, that's not the right context for being less formal, right? Like it all depends on context, but try to make it fun and engaging, because if it's boring, if it's annoying, it's just going to get people opting out. So looking at best practices, number one, you have to set expectations. How often are you going to be sending messages? Number two, what is going to be in those messages? And then number three, in every single message, in order to maintain compliance, you have to give people the ability to opt out. And that's typically through replying the word stop to opt out. Most of these text message marketing tools have smart flows that will then opt people out of that message. And don't be afraid of getting people to get out of your messages, because ultimately, you don't want people that are not going to be engaged. So I think that there's a big fear of, I don't want to send out this message because people are going to be nervous and people are going to opt out. Like, if you don't want people to be in there that are not going to be engaged anyways. So we need to cultivate a list, maintain it, and communicate with it regularly. So the other thing that's really cool about text messaging, by the way, is that it doesn't have to be long-winded. It can just be short. In fact, the shorter the messages, the better, because they're all going to show up in a single message. It won't download to multiple messages. So keep it short and sweet, and it's basically like sending out headlines. Okay, I think that's something that you should really just consider and think about, is that it's easy to send out, test it out, send it out regularly, and really build a relationship through that medium and that channel. So I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll see you on the next episode. Have a great one, everybody.